The descent into the unknown. Deep beneath the scorched surface of Zeta Prime, a scouting team ventures into the unknown. Their mission is clear: map the underground network, search for additional Xerium core deposits, and ensure the planet holds no further threats. But what they find changes everything. A massive underground temple. The tunnels stretch deep beneath the surface of Zeta Prime, winding through the darkness like veins beneath scarred skin. The air was thick, charged with an unseen energy. Not quite electricity, not quite radiation, but something else entirely. The scouting team moved carefully, their flashlights flickering against the carved stone walls. Symbols, ancient and unknowable, glistened faintly as though they were breathing. Then Captain Voss's voice, barely above a whisper. "This place is older than anything we've ever found." Lieutenant Leon Draco ran his fingers over the pulsing runes, his voice quiet, reverent. "Older than the ruins on Earth?" A shiver ran through Ensign Dara Solis, though she couldn't explain why. "Then why does it feel like it's still alive?" No one answered. Then, the pulse came. It wasn't sound. It wasn't light. It was a wave of something unseen, rippling through the temple walls, through their bones. The soldiers stiffened. Their grips loosened. Their thoughts blurred. Their weapons slipped from their hands. The feeling was indescribable, like euphoria wrapping around them, whispering through their minds, like peace curling into their blood, like weightlessness pulling them forward. Dara exhaled, her voice distant. "It's beautiful." And one by one, without thought, they walked forward into the dark. The face of a forgotten god. The temple stretched higher than sight, its ancient stone crumbling into infinity. Somewhere above, thin shafts of light cut through the blackness, illuminating the impossible figure waiting before them. A woman, or something like one. She did not stand. She drifted, her form suspended just above the ground. Robes of ethereal white curled around her, moving as though caught in a current unseen. Her skin glowed, faintly silver. Long, pale hair cascaded over her shoulders, catching the light like strands of liquid metal. Her eyes, vast, endless. A void filled with ancient sorrow. Then she spoke, not with words, not with sound. Her voice was a melody inside their minds.
"You have wandered into my dreams, human."
Leon Draker's breath caught in his chest. He was adrift. The temple around him blurred. His body felt weightless, as if he were standing on the edge of something vast. "Who are you?" he murmured. The entity tilted her head, studying him with an expression that was both tender and endless.
"I am the echo of 1,000 lost cycles. A traveler between worlds. A fragment of what once was."
Leon Draker tried to move, to step back, to resist, but the weight of her presence crushed all thought of defiance. Her voice curled through his mind, gentle yet inescapable.
"You struggle, you fight, you break yourselves against the void, believing it makes you strong. But do you even know what you are?"
He exhaled, his voice barely a whisper. "Human." She laughed softly, a sound that carried no malice, only knowing.
"A word you gave yourselves, and yet you do not understand its meaning."
She drifted closer. Time seemed to bend around them. An eternity passed in a single heartbeat.
"You are creatures of war, but inside you, I see something more."
She raised a hand, hovering just above his chest, and Leon Dracar felt it. Not pain, not fire, but something deeper, something that called to him.
"You are a species of contradiction, chaos and order, destruction and creation, weakness and power."
He shuddered. "Then, what are you?" For the first time, her expression faltered.
"I am the last of what remains."
The words carried a sorrow that stretched across lifetimes.
"My kind do not die. We dissolve, return to the flow between worlds. But I was severed. I am trapped.
Lee and Draker felt something shift between them, a connection, not spoken but felt.
I need a source of great energy to return home, to cross the threshold between dimensions.
Her gaze deepened, locking onto him.
Your kind carries that energy inside them. It radiates from your very essence, from the chaos that defines you.
The realization settled over him like an inescapable truth. He had never truly had a choice.
Give yourself to me. Help me return home. And in return, I will grant your people knowledge beyond their years.
A memory flashed, his childhood, staring at the stars, believing he was meant for something more. And in that moment, it no longer mattered if the decision was his own. Some things were not choices, some things were destiny. His lips parted, though his voice was distant, as if the words had already been spoken before he was born. If this is what I was meant for, then I accept. The temple ignited in blinding light inside Fort Exodus. Kael and the War Council watched in horror. Leon stood motionless, his lips moving soundlessly. Yet, they heard nothing. The transmission had gone silent the moment the team entered the temple. Then, Leon vanished. A pillar of golden energy erupted around him, swallowing his form. The cameras flickered. The Titan-class war machines, frozen, unresponsive. And where Leon had once stood, only the artifact remained. A heavy silence filled the war room. Kael stared at the screen. He's gone. Dr. Aiko's voice trembled. Did he choose to go? Kyle's expression darkened. Or was he never given a choice? No one spoke. Finally, General Rhett muttered, his voice low. We don't know what she was. We don't know what she wanted. Dr. Aiko exhaled, a whisper barely audible. And now, we never will. The mission becomes an investigation. The wind howled through the cracked stone of the ancient temple, whispering through the ruins like echoes of a forgotten past. The scouting team stood frozen, their eyes locked onto the artifact, a monolithic pyramid covered in glowing hieroglyphs that pulsed in eerie rhythmic waves. The air was thick, heavy with something unseen, pressing against their chests. Their bodies felt sluggish, their minds clouded, as if reality itself had thinned. Then the weight of what had just happened settled upon them. We lost him, Voss murmured, his voice barely a whisper. Lieutenant Daxon Krell clenched his fists. No, he chose to go with her. Tyron exhaled sharply, his teeth grinding. That thing took him. And we just stood here, like puppets. Their suits' sensors flickered erratically, heart rates spiking, neurological readings displaying anomalies never before recorded in human biology. Then, a harsh alarm blared through their comms. AI system. Warning, unidentified aerial contacts detected, 20 miles in closing. The daze broke. Voss snapped back into command mode. Move! We need to get back, now! Not everyone moved. Private Kellen Rowe remained where he stood, his gaze lost in the shadows where Leon had vanished. His fingers twitched, reaching for something intangible. She was beautiful, like heaven itself was calling me. His voice was soft, distant. Tyron stormed toward him, grabbing his shoulder and shaking him. Snap out of it! We don't have time for this. Rowe barely reacted. I can still hear her. I need to go back. Lieutenant Daxon Krell's expression darkened. He's still under her influence. We can't leave him like this. Voss made the call. Override command. Restrain him. We're taking him back. Alive. The Titan-class robot units activated. Two of the robotic soldiers stepped forward, gripping Rowe's arms with cold mechanical precision. He fought weakly, resisting like a man being torn from a dream. No, she's not a monster. Tyron's patience snapped. Shut up and move. As they stepped beyond the temple's entrance, something shifted. The strange warmth that had lingered in the air was gone. The eerie sense of being watched had vanished, leaving behind only the cold reality of war. Lieutenant Daxon Krell's voice was quiet, uneasy. She let us go. Voss's response was grim. No, She just didn't need us anymore. They secured the artifact and rushed toward the evac point. Radar signals flared. AI system. Enemy ships within 15 miles. Atmospheric entry detected. Voss activated his comms. Titan's Bastion, we're coming in hot. Clear a landing zone. The response was tense. Base command. Understood. If they spot you, we can't send air support, so don't get spotted. Voss looked at his team. We move fast, stay quiet, and don't stop. Tyron adjusted his rifle, glancing at the sky. And if they see us? Voss's expression was hard as steel. Then we pray our shields hold. The road back. The conversation that haunts them. The transport sped toward Titan's Bastion, engines roaring through the night. Inside, no one spoke. The artifact sat in the center, pulsing with an unnatural glow. No one dared touch it. Finally, Roe broke the silence. She wasn't evil. Lieutenant Daxon Krell, staring at the alien landscape, replied softly, I don't think we'll ever understand what she was. Roe's hands clenched into fists. It felt like I was seeing the truth of everything. Like life wasn't just about survival. It was something more. Tyron scoffed. Yeah? Leon thought the same thing, and now he's gone. A voice crackled over the comms. Dr. Iko, whatever she did to you, it left an imprint on your minds. Voss finally spoke, his voice quieter than before. Was it real? Or just manipulation? Silence. Roe whispered, watching the temple fade in the distance. It doesn't matter. We'll never forget her. Lieutenant Daxon Krell nodded. No, we won't. Then the radar alarms screamed their final warning. AI system. Unidentified enemy ships entering low orbit. Attack vector, Titan's Bastion. Prepare for imminent assault. Voss tightened his grip on his rifle. Get ready, we're bringing hell right behind us. For centuries, humanity had survived by running, by hiding in the cold corners of the galaxy where the Federation would not find them. But survival alone was not enough. The return to Earth had been a declaration. We are still here. The battle on Zeta Prime had proved their resilience. But now the truth was clear. This war was not about reclaiming land or technology. It was about existence itself. The calm before the storm. Inside Titan's Bastion, the war room was silent. The air was thick with tension, a pressure that weighed on every soldier, every officer, every commander. Holographic maps flickered, displaying the cold, unfeeling approach of the Zhaarim fleet. They were coming. No words could soften the reality of what lay ahead. This wasn't just a battle for a planet. This was a battle for humanity's survival. Kael stood at the center of it all, his gaze unwavering. He had led his people through the fires of war, through the darkness of near extinction. He had seen what happened when humanity hesitated, and he had no intention of repeating the mistakes of the past. We tried diplomacy, we showed restraint, and what did they ask for? Our people. They never wanted peace, only control. They thought we would break. He took a slow breath, his voice steady, his eyes burning with defiance. But humanity does not break. Humanity does not kneel. They see us as weak because we are few. But they've made a mistake, one that will cost them everything. Kael turned to the massive holographic projection of the enemy fleet, its glowing red markers closing in like an inevitable tide. They think this is their war. They have no idea what we're capable of. The war room erupted into motion. Officers rushed to their stations, activating defense grids and finalizing battle formations. Red alert sirens howled across Zeta Prime. The battle for existence had begun. The first strike. The Zhaarim fleet descended like fiery serpents, their sleek bioelectric ships slithering through the upper atmosphere, glowing with eerie crimson light. Their weapons primed, their purpose clear. But humanity had prepared for this moment. From deep underground, hidden silos erupted open, and a huge group of Falcon-class interceptors, the newest high-speed warships, blasted into the sky, their engines screaming as they raced toward the enemy. Unlike previous designs, these ships were faster, more maneuverable, but at a cost. They were fragile. They were built to fight, and die fast. All pilots, brace yourselves. Admiral Thalos' vain voice crackled over the fleet-wide comms. This is the real test. Kane smirked from his cockpit, his gloved hands flexing over the controls. Let's see if these beauties can dance. We're not here to survive, Voss cut in. We're here to buy time. Engage on my mark. A brief pause, then, all ships, attack! The human fleet surged forward, breaking into countless micro-formations, darting between the massive Zhaarim warships like a swarm of hornets. They fired everything they had. The sky erupted in fire. Plasma cannons, railguns, high-yield explosives carving through the dark void. The first Zhaarim warship buckled, its obsidian hull cracking, explosions rippling through its core. For a moment, hope. Then the Zhaarim counterattack. What the hell is that? Kane's voice cracked with alarm. Their energy weapons are adapting, shifting frequencies to bypass our shields. Vasquez shouted over the comms. They're learning in real time. Admiral Thalos' vain expression darkened. One by one, human ships ignited, fireballs vanishing into the abyss. But they kept fighting, because they had no choice. Deploying the AI armies. On the surface of Zeta Prime, as the sky burned above, the ground war was beginning. Inside Fort Exodus, massive hangars burst open as Titan-class AI units, almost the size of a human, deployed into battle. These sleek, agile war machines moved with precision and speed, their frames built for adaptability rather than sheer size. Dr. Aiko stood in the command center, watching the battle unfold on massive monitors. This is the future of war, she whispered. Beside her, General Rhett crossed his arms, his jaw tight. Let's hope we don't regret it. The Zhaarim ground assault surged forward, sleek, insectoid war machines, climbing across the battlefield like a tidal wave. The Titans opened fire, plasma bolts cutting through the darkness, mechanical bodies moving with inhuman agility. For a moment, it seemed humanity could hold the line. Then, disaster. A blue energy surge erupted through the ranks. Damn it, Aiko! Tyron's voice was frantic over the comms. Your guns are killing us! On the monitors, several Titan-class units convulsed, their Xerium-powered weapons overloading, exploding in brilliant green fire. The energy regulators aren't stabilizing. We're running out of time. Aiko's hands flew across the console. Humanity had gambled on Xerium's power. Now it was backfiring. They had to adapt or be wiped out. Final stand at Titan's Bastion. Across Titan's Bastion, humanity fought like never before. Voss led an assault squad through the wreckage of fallen ships, dodging plasma fire as he rallied soldiers into counteroffensive formations. Tyron, bloodied but unbroken, tore through the enemy ranks with a rail blade, cutting down Zhaarim warriors in brutal close combat. Draker's absence loomed over them all, his fate still unknown. But the war did not wait for morning. The battle raged with a deafening roar, explosions illuminating the war-torn fields of Zeta Prime. The cries of the wounded mixed with the relentless mechanical whir of Titan-class AI units adapting mid-battle, their programming shifting in real time as the artifact's intelligence guided them. As the front line pushed forward, Kael's voice broke through the battle chaos, the final rallying call. Hold the line! We were meant to disappear, but we are still here. We are still fighting. Humanity does not fade. We burn brighter than ever before. The Zhaarim faltered for the first time. They had come to erase a species. Instead, they had awakened a force they did not understand. The flames of war reflected in Kael's determined eyes as he raised his weapon. Push forward. This is our moment. This is our war. Final stand at Titan's Bastion. The battlefield was chaos. Zeta Prime's war-torn sky burned with the glow of fire and plasma. Wreckage from fallen ships rained down like comets, scattering across the ravaged plains. The ground war raged beneath it all, explosions shaking the earth, soldiers digging into makeshift fortifications. AI war machines weaving through the battlefield, clashing with the Zhaarim's relentless warforms. Inside Titan's Bastion, the command center was a storm of voices. Admiral Thalos' vain fleet was locked in desperate dogfights, maneuvering through debris fields. We're losing ground up here. We need fire support from the surface, she barked over comms. We're barely holding as it is, General Rhett shot back, his voice thick with exhaustion. He stood on the front lines, rifle in hand, directing squads between collapsed Titan-class units. If we don't push back soon, we're getting boxed in. In the war room, Kael watched it all unfold. Jaw tight, eyes sharp. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was about breaking free. He activated the fleet-wide transmission, his voice cutting through the chaos. We hold this line. We hold it because if we don't, there is no tomorrow. A pause, a silence that carried across the battlefield. He wasn't asking them to fight. They already were. He was reminding them why. The Federation erased us from history. The galaxy wrote us off as a dead species, a mistake to be corrected. His words carried over to the trenches, where soldiers reloaded their weapons with shaking hands. They weren't fearless, but they were ready. In a battered bunker, a young private exhaled sharply, gripping his rifle. You hear that? We're not supposed to be here. Yeah, checking his last magazine. Then let's prove the galaxy wrong. The comms erupted with other voices, officers, pilots, soldiers, commanders, each taking up the call in their own way. General Rhett, bloodied but unbroken, slammed a fresh power cell into his rifle. Get those heavy gunners in position. We drive them back. Admiral Lorne, component placement coordinating the fleet, sent one final order. All remaining warships, tighten formations and hit their carriers. We cut their reinforcements now. Dr. Aiko, still at Titan's Bastion, her hands flying across the console, made a brutal decision. Override the AI combat unit's restrictions. Let them learn. Let them adapt. They weren't waiting to die. They were pushing forward. The soldiers on the ground, the pilots in the air, the engineers behind the scenes, everyone was part of the fight. And as Kael looked across the battlefield, hearing their voices rise, he knew. This wasn't just his war. It was humanity's war. Breaking free from Zeta Prime. The new objective was clear. They could not remain trapped. The Zhaarim had pushed them into a corner, cutting off their ability to maneuver. That was about to change. Kael opened the direct command link to all forces. We are not meant to survive. We are meant to fight. Push the front lines forward, whatever it takes. We break their hold on this world. Rhett turned to his exhausted soldiers, voice hoarse. You heard the commander. We're taking this fight to them. Forward. Admiral Lorne's fleet struck with precision, targeting the Zhaarim's orbital command ships, forcing them to break formation. Aiko's AI Titans move faster, smarter, deadlier, no longer just machines but evolving weapons. On the ground, the battle turned. Humanity did not just hold the line. They shattered it. And in the burning skies of Zeta Prime, the Zhaarim finally hesitated, because for the first time they realized. They had come to erase a species. Instead, they had awakened a force they did not understand. And as the final charge surged forward, the battle cry of humanity was not spoken. It was felt in the fire, in the steel, in the refusal to kneel. Because humanity was never meant to survive, but they chose war.